Welcome everyone. Welcome to NS Institute.
Today we'll learn carbon nanotubes. It is also an important part of the topic ceramic, which is in your syllabus, that is DSE B1, inorganic materials of industrial importance. So now, what is actually carbon nanotubes? As the name suggests, it is having two words, right? Carbon and nanotubes. So carbon means that it is made up of carbon allotropes. So carbon means that it is made up of carbon allotropes. And what does it mean by nanotube? Nanotube means that it is having tube shaped cylindrical form, and the diameter should be in the range of nanometer, or the diameter should be in nanometer scale. So basically, what should be the complete definition of carbon nanotubes? So a carbon nanotube is a tube shaped material made up of carbon, or you can say made up of carbon allotropes, having a diameter measuring on the nanometer scale. As it is being measured on the nanometer scale, therefore it is named as nanotubes. So basically the diameter should be in the nanometer scale, and it is having unique properties, or you can say that CNTs. Sometimes in short form it is named as CNT, that is carbon nanotube, and those are unique because the bonding between these atoms are very strong. Now later in this lecture we will come to know why the bonding between these atoms are very strong. So now we will go to the structure of these carbon nanotubes. So basically the carbon nanotubes are having this kind of sheet structure. The sheet structure means that it is named as graphene sheet. So now this multiple layered graphene sheet is actually graphite. So graphene sheet means actually the single layered sheet of graphite is named as graphene sheet. Now when this graphene sheet will be rolled, up, it will transform us into a structure like this, right? Like a straw. Mostly all of you have seen the straw, that the hollow tube shaped cylindrical form, that is basically the simple nanotube, or you can say that is basically the simple carbon nanotube structure. So now if these graphene sheet will be rolled up, it will be ended into a structure like this. Now these carbon nanotubes can be of two types. Mostly they are of two types. First one is that single walled carbon nanotube, and second one is the multi-walled carbon nanotubes. Now what is single walled carbon nanotubes? Single walled carbon nanotubes means basically it consists only one, or single graphene sheet into a cylindrical form, or you can say that single cylindrical graphene sheet. But when it will be multi-layered, it will be transformed into a multi-walled carbon nanotubes. So basically multi-walled carbon nanotubes consist several graphene sheets. It can be ranged from 2 to 10 graphene sheets, which will be arranged concentrically in the cylindrical form, or in the tubical form, in the tube structure. So basically this single walled carbon nanotube consists only one graphene sheet in the cylindrical form, whereas these multi-walled carbon nanotubes basically consist several these graphene sheets, and the range can be from 2 to several 10 graphene sheets concentrically, which can be arranged concentrically. Concentrically means that the center of each hollow tube will be same. Center of these all hollow tubes will be same, like this will be the center. So center of these all hollow tubes will be same, therefore they will be arranged concentrically in the tube, or in the tube shaped, or in the cylindrical shape. Okay, so basically single walled carbon nanotubes can be written in the short form like SWCNT, and this multi walled carbon nanotubes can be written in the short form like MWCNT. Now coming to the next point, that is these all carbon nanotubes are often close-ended, but they can be open-ended also. Like these, whatever I have seen you, I have shown you in this picture, that is the both end of this carbon nanotube are actually open-ended. So basically they are often close-ended, but they can be open-ended also. And there are also cases that where these carbon nanotubes, when it is going to be closed off, just before closing off, diameter of these particular one end, or diameter of these end or this end is actually reducing. So there are also cases when these diameter of these particular one end of these carbon nanotube can be reduced before closing off. Okay, so now we'll go to the next part, that is carbon nanotubes are tabular forms of carbon that can be envisaged as graphene sheets rolled into cylindrical form, like whatever we have learned in the last slide. That is, that graphene sheet, when it will be rolled up into the cylindrical form, now you will get the carbon nanotube. Now these cylindrical form, or these graphene sheet cylindrical form, when that will be multi-layered, that will be converted into multi-layered carbon nanotube. The when it the single graphene sheet will be rolled up, that will be named as SWCNT, that is single walled carbon nanotube. When it will be multiple layered, it will be named as multiple layered carbon nanotube. Now these nanotubes have diameters of few nanometers. That's why actually it is named as nanotubes, because the diameter should be in the nanometer scale. But their lengths, that length of that carbon nanotube, like the length of this carbon nanotube can be up to several micrometers, can be up to several micrometers. This length can be up to several micrometer. Okay, the length of this carbon nanotube, but this dia should be in the nanometer scale. The dia should be in the nanometer scale. Now each nanotube is made up of a hexagonal network of covalently bonded carbon atoms. So basically the bond between each of the carbon atom is covalent bond. Okay, so each of these bond, these carbon carbon bond, are covalent in nature. That's why actually it is having that unique property that these carbon carbon bonds are very strong in nature, like whatever we have learned in the first slide, that is the CNT are unique because the bonding between the atoms are very strong. Why these bondings are very strong? Because they are covalently bonded to each other. We will come to the structure of these nanotube briefly in the next slide, or later in this lecture. But as in this slide we have come to know that it is made up of a hexagonal network. We have already seen this kind of hexagonal network in the fullerenes, because fullerenes is having a set of this pentagonal and hexagonal network of carbon atoms. Now in nanotube, only hexagonal network of covalently bonded carbon atoms will be there. Now, carbon nanotubes are mainly of two types, that is single walled carbon nanotube and multiple walled carbon nanotube, that is SWCNT, that is single walled carbon nanotube. For practical example, if you want to visualize that how it will look like, you can take an example like a straw, like a plastic straw. This is like single walled carbon nanotube. I am not telling that this is made, it is made up of carbon nanotube. I am just telling that if you want to visualize the structure of single walled carbon nanotube, how it will look like, so you can just think about the this plastic straw pipe. Now another thing is that this is the first type, and this next type will be this multiple walled carbon nanotube. This is another type. So multiple walled carbon nanotube means that there will be multi-layer, there will be multiple layer, or you can say that these graphene sheets can be multiple. It can be ranged from 2 to 10 graphene sheets, and they can be arranged concentrically in this tubical shape. Okay, so concentrically means that center of each sorry, center of these each of these tube shaped graphene sheet will be the same. like this bigger one, like the bigger one tube. Okay, this bigger one graphene sheet, or the bigger one cylindrical graphene sheet is having the center like this. Now inside of this bigger one, inside of this bigger one, there will be a smaller one. There will be a smaller one cylindrical graphene sheet, but the center will be same. Okay, so the center will be same, so therefore they are named as placed concentrically in the tube format. Okay, so now coming to the next point, that is a single walled carbon nanotube consists of a single graphene cylinder, or you can say that single graphene cylindrical sheet, whereas a multi-walled carbon nanotube comprises of a several concentric graphene cylinders. I am just mentioning once again that what does it mean, that several concentric graphene cylinders. Suppose you are having one graphene sheet or one cylindrical graphene sheet like this. Now inside this you will have another one graphene sheet, another one graphene sheet like this. Okay, but the center will be same, but the center will be same. Now inside this can be another cylindrical graphene sheet like this one. So there are total 3 cylindrical graphene sheets which are placed concentrically, concentrically means that their center are same, so therefore they are named as multi walled carbon nanotube. So now, depending on the way of rolling, so when these graphene sheets are actually planar in nature, right? When they are rolled up, depending on the way of rolling, now the single walled carbon nanotubes can be of different types. That is, it can be armchair, it can be like zigzag, it can be like chiral, which we will get in later in this lecture. Means this how it will be converted into a armchair or zigzag or chiral in nature. So now synthesis of CNTs. Now how these carbon nanotubes can be synthesized. We will not go into this brief description of this synthesis. We'll just look into this overall procedure of this. We will not go into the brief idea. So there are basically two main methods for the preparation of CNT, that is carbon nanotube. First one is that sublimation of graphite with subsequent desublimation, and second method is that decomposition of carbon containing compounds. Now under this first method, the sublimation of graphite with subsequent desublimation, it can be done either of these two methods. First one is that arc discharge method, and second one is that laser ablation. So these are the two methods, that is arc discharge method and laser ablation. Based by these two methods you can prepare this CNT or carbon nanotube. And the second type, or the second type of synthesis of CNT, that is decomposition of carbon containing compounds. Under this type, the method will be like chemical vapor deposition, or in short form it is named as CVD. So through this chemical vapor deposition you can also prepare this CNT or this carbon nanotube. So now we have already learned, right, that depending on the rolling up, depending on the way of rolling of graphene sheets, now this single walled carbon nanotube can be classified, or can be of different types like armchair, like zigzag, like chiral. Now what is armchair? Armchair is like this. Okay, this is the armchair. Now what is zigzag? Zigzag means like this one. And what is chiral? This is the chiral, like that is like this tetrahedral moiety. And when these two tetrahedral moieties, or when the mirror image of this tetrahedral moiety, the mirror image of this tetrahedral moiety means these two, right, mirror image to each other, but they cannot be superimposed to each other, therefore they are named as chiral in nature. Now depending on the type of rolling of these graphene sheets, these single walled carbon nanotubes can be of three types, that is armchair, zigzag, or chiral. Now, first one is that armchair. Like in this case, you can see that the arrangement of these carbon atoms are like this, that it will look like a armchair, or it will look like an armchair. Okay. Now, second point, that is zigzag. Now, depending on the type or the way of rolling, it will be transformed into a zigzag type of structure. Like you can see in each arrangement, the type is like zigzag, so therefore it is named as zigzag. Now the third one, that is a chiral one. So chiral one, basically whenever you will look into the structure, in each of these shape, sorry, in each of these arrangement, you can notice the chiral type of moiety is present. Whatever we have shown in this picture, there is a chiral moiety like this tetrahedral one, when this mirror image of this particular moiety will not be superimposed to each other, so therefore then they can be considered as chiral one. But the chiral moiety will be look like the tetrahedral one. So this is the chiral type of structure. So depending on this way of rolling of that graphene sheets, these we will get this armchair, zigzag, or chiral CNT or carbon nanotubes. But remember, these are single walled carbon nanotubes. They are not multiple walled. They are only single walled carbon nanotube. They are not multi walled. Now this, depending on the way of rolling of these carbon nanotubes, they are or they can be like armchair, zigzag, or chiral. The same point we have learned in this slide, that depending on the way of rolling of graphene sheets, single walled carbon nanotubes are of different types, that is armchair, zigzag, and chiral. Okay, so now in this slide we have already come to know that how it looks like. Armchair means like this one. So like in this armchair, the arrangement of the carbon atoms will look like an armchair. Now in the zigzag, the arrangement of the carbon atoms will be like zigzag. Now in the chiral, the arrangement of the carbon atoms will be like chiral one. So therefore they are named as armchair, zigzag, and chiral nanotubes. But remember the thing, remember one thing, that all these carbon nanotubes are under single wall carbon nanotube. They are not multi wall carbon nanotubes. Now coming to the important properties of CNT, that is the important properties of CNT. Now due to these unique molecular structure, these CNTs are having some extraordinary macroscopic properties. So what are those extraordinary macroscopic properties? Like it is having high thermal conductivity, it is having high electrical conductivity, it is having very high tensile strength, and some extra points are also there. I want to mention that it is having very high ductility, very high ductility, and chemical inability, that is it doesn't want to react. So basically the important properties are like that. It's having high thermal conductivity, high electrical conductivity, high tensile strength, high ductility, and chemical inability. And there are also some other properties, like they are highly flexible, and they are very elastic, and they are good electrical field emitters. So basically these are the overall properties. But remember, these properties whatever I have mentioned first, so those are very important under these you can say that under important macroscopic properties. So now this is very important, that is difference between single walled carbon nanotube and multi walled carbon nanotube. So we have already know this first point, that is in single wall carbon nanotube, it is having single layer of graphene sheet or single layer of graphene cylindrical sheet, and you can say that it is multiple layer of graphene sheet or multiple layer of graphene cylindrical sheet. Single layer graphene sheet means like this one only, and multiple layer means that first you can see that say that one bigger dia tube, Then inside that there will be a smaller diatube. Inside that there can be again a smaller diatube, but all of these tubes should be placed concentrically, or you can say that all of these graphene sheets or cylindrical graphene sheets should be placed concentrically. So therefore, it will be named as multi-walled carbon nanotube. Now, catalyst is required for its synthesis. For to synthesize these single-wall carbon nanotube, you should have the catalyst, or the catalyst presence should be required. But in case of this multi-wall carbon nanotube, it can be produced without any kind of catalyst. Without catalyst, this multi-wall carbon nanotube can be produced, but the single wall carbon nanotube can only be produced in presence of catalyst. Now, bulk synthesis is difficult and it requires proper control over growth and atmospheric conditions, but bulk synthesis is easy in case of multi-wall carbon nanotube. Now, in case of single-wall carbon nanotube, purity is poor, whereas in case of multi-wall carbon nanotube, purity will be pretty high.
Now, it is actually less accumulation in body, whereas in case of multi-wall carbon nanotube, it can be more accumulated in the body. And characterization and evaluation is very easy in case of
Single wall carbon nanotube, but in case of multi-wall carbon nanotube, it has very complex structure, and therefore this characterization and evaluation will be comparatively difficult in case of multi-wall carbon nanotube, that is MWCNT. And it can be easily twisted and more pliable. Easily twisted means, for example, you are having this straw pipe, means this plastic straw pipe. So you can imagine that you can easily twist that pipe, right? These, if we are having this plastic pipe or plastic straw pipe, you can easily twist that. Why? Because it is single wall. But when they will be multi wall, they cannot be twisted easily because they will be comparatively stronger. So therefore these single wall carbon nanotube can be twisted easily, or these are more pliable, but it cannot be twisted easily. Okay. Now coming to the last part of the CNT, that is where is the application of CMT, where CNT or carbon nanotube, where we can apply these carbon nanotubes. So basically, carbon nanotube membranes are used for transdermal drug delivery. They can be used for the cancer treatments also, because these are very good biomedical applications of CNT. And CNTs can be used for cardiac autonomic regulation also. They are also used for platelet activation. These all are actually biomedical applications. CNTs can be used for tissue regeneration, and these carbon nanotubes can also be used in drug delivery. So basically here I have highlighted some of these biomedical applications of CNT, that is they are used in this cancer therapy, or you can say that in this cancer treatment you can use the CNT, that is carbon nanotube. In this bioimaging process we are using carbon nanotubes, in the biosensors also. In the drug delivery, we have already mentioned these are the future trends, that in this drug delivery we are using this carbon nanotube. And this tissue engineering means that tissue regeneration process. In this tissue regeneration process we are using carbon nanotubes, and there can be wide application of carbon nanotubes. Okay, so thank you very much for watching this video. If you like this video, please share this as much as possible and subscribe our channel. And you will get the study material link in the description box. And if you have any doubt regarding this class, you can write in the comment box of also. We'll try to answer that as soon as possible. So thank you very much for watching this video. See you in the next class. Bye bye.